Okay, so I thought I'd make this full guide on how to render a video from beginning to end, because I'd done sort of run-throughs in the past of bits of different pieces of it, but that was the earlier build, the unreleased build, and now the official build is out, and it's been out for a few weeks. I thought I may as well make this, now I'm used to it. Um, I'm going to show you absolutely everything I do, like for quality and various different things. A lot of this is what I've done for ages, and it hasn't really changed much. So it's kind of pretty easy once you get used to doing this. But anyway, first thing you want to do is jump into SideQuest with your headset connected, obviously, and I would go to device settings. Now, my main focus with renders is getting the best quality possible because we're really trying to get it to look like PC. The PC videos. I mean, we'll never quite get there because of like shading and lighting and limitations and stuff like that, but we can get pretty close. So there's the CPU GPU level. I used to set this to level 4, but you can now set it using any tweaks in game, so I just leave this. This default texture size is obviously defaulted at Quest 2 normally. I try to get this on 2048. Be aware though that increasing the texture size, your renders might start crashing occasionally. I think it just depends on how crazy the map is, kind of thing. But I will generally try it on 2048 and I'll try and render a few times. If it keeps crashing, I'll come and drop this down until the render will kick in, basically. Refresh rate, again, this is on 90, but in any tweaks you can set your refresh rate, so it doesn't really matter in here. Leave all this, and one of the main things I come and in proximity sensor, disable the proximity sensor. That just keeps your headset on even if you take it off. So you can set it rendering and just sit it on the desk and you don't have to worry about it going to sleep and then you have to wake it up because that pauses the render, I think, unless that's changed now. But yeah, I just have this disable proximity sensor. That's it. So that's everything in SideQuest. So now let's jump in the headset and I'll show you my render settings and the various steps in there. So let's jump in there now. Okay, so here we are in the Quest 2. I'm just going to show you the different settings I use to get my renders looking nice. So we're going to go into mods and you need to have any tweaks installed. When you first come into this, I think you have to pick a graphics preset. It'll be on like default, and then I think if you want to use bloom, you have to click this preset. This will be grayed out, and then you have to come back out, and then it's loaded the AnyTweaks ideal preset for playing with bloom, I believe. But we're not going to be playing with bloom. It's just for rendering, so we can crank up the settings a bit more. We'll go back to AnyTweaks, and now you can see the graphics option is available and advanced down here. So in graphics, I have that just resolution is just set to 1, anti-aliasing 4 times, refresh 90, bloom is on, bloom high quality, mirror. I normally have it on high quality, but I'm going to be rendering a noodle map, and I noticed when I was playing it I could see the reflection of my sabers in the distance and it looked a bit weird, so just for this render I'm having mirrors off, but for a standard map I would usually have mirrors set to high, and that's just the reflection in the path underneath you and underneath the blocks. Smoke, add smoke to the environment. This only works on some standard maps, so I don't think it works on like Chroma and Noodle and stuff like that. So I'll leave this off most of the time, but I'll occasionally put it on some maps. If it's just a standard map, it looks pretty nice. So yeah, that is my settings in there, and then let me just check the advanced tab. So I'll have these don't matter to rendering, I don't think. I have this color space set to Rec 2020 just because I like the look of the colors. They have a little bit more pop, to be honest. And CPU and GPU level, I have them both set to 4, just because when we're rendering we want to get as much power as possible basically. Then we'll back out. And there we are. Next I'll look at the replay. Where is replay? There we go. So it's called replay, but the render settings are in replay, so it's just part of it. So if we look over to the side here, we've got the render settings. I have allow pauses off, I have PC walls on, I have PC mirrors set to high, shockwaves set to 2. You can adjust this, it just gives a bigger shockwave when you hit the blocks. My render resolution is 1440 by 2560 and my bitrate is 350,000. My FOV is 100, FPS is 60 and I have camera disabled. Those are my settings, they work fine for me. And what I do later in Shutter Encoder is upscale this to 4K to make it look better on YouTube. But you can change this to 1080 and stuff. I'm not going to mess about with this because I've got it how I like it. To get the bitrate up to this, you do need to edit a file and drop it in using SideQuest. I'll show you that file quickly once we go back to the PC. But I think this normally caps out at 10,000 or 100,000, I believe. But if I clicked this now and changed it, it wouldn't let me go back to this 350,000. So yeah, and those are my replay settings for anyone that's interested, because the render still uses the smooth camera. So yeah, corrector camera, my offset position on Y is minus 0.1 and offset Z is minus 0.3. Player height 7, I don't change any of this stuff to be honest, so that's just standard as it was. And that is everything in the headset. So then all I would do is go to the song I want to render. I wanted to render, God, I can't remember what it was called now. It was, I've just played a noodle map. It was a little bit old, but I kept meaning to render it once. I'd updated and I only just remembered. It was Interstellar. If anyone's seen the film Interstellar, they tried to map it to look kind of like, this is it, Cornfield Chase. I picked this because I knew I was going to make this video as well, and it's a short render, so I can quickly, it's only a 2-minute map. So anyway, once you've got all your settings in place, you go to this little button at the side, and these are all your settings for replay and render and such. So the first thing you have to do is turn on audio mode and then record replay and sit and just watch it all the way through once. And what this is going to do is create a WAV file of the audio only. You're not going to get a video file, but you're going to get a high quality audio file. So you record that. Once it's finished, you'll return back to this screen. Then you need to take your headset off, connect it to SideQuest, and save the audio file from there. I'll show you that in a second once we go back to the PC. Once you've saved that audio file, you come back here, turn audio mode off, and then you just click render replay. Then the screen will go black. You will hear the audio kind of skipping and stuttering, and that means that the render is actually working and it's recording your video file. And then that will take, depending on the length and what resolution and bitrate you have, it could be like 20-30 minutes. That's why I disabled the proximity sensor, so I can just take my headset off, stick it on the desk, go make a cup of tea while I wait for it to render. So I'm going to render this now, and then while that's rendering, I will just show you the where the files are on the PC. Okay, so we're back on the PC. My video's rendering beside me on the desk as I speak. And I'll just show you those couple of different things where I'll show you the replay file first. Just this is only if you need to change that bitrate or if you want to change the settings in a text file for some reason, but everything else you can do in game. But if you want to get that bitrate up a little bit, you're gonna need to do it this way. So you will go to, sorry, you will go to this little folder icon, manage files on the headset. Then you will go to mod data, beat games, BeatSaber, configs, and then all you want to look for is replay. Replay. So replay JSON, save that to your PC or wherever. And where's my downloads? So then you open up that text file, and this is basically just a list of your settings for replay that we've just looked at in game. You'll notice it's all the same. FOV, yeah, third person camera, smooth offset. So the only thing, if you're wanting to do this, is to change the bitrate. So there, you would just type in the bitrate you want to use. Like I said, in game it caps out 100,000. I have it set to 350,000. Some people previously, when we were doing renders, because this was the only way to change the settings, there were no in-game settings. People were doing like 10 million, 20 million. But it ends up being a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. If you're cranking up the bitrate, especially with high resolutions, it just gets crashy. So all my videos that you see, they're at 350,000 and they're at width 2560 by 1440 upscaled to 4K. So yeah, that's it. So then once you've edited that, you would save it, and then all you do is come back to this folder where you got it from on SideQuest, and you would just drag it and drop it up here, and that would just load it back in to SideQuest, and that's it. It will have changed your settings in game. Next, I'll show you where to get the audio file that we rendered. So we did the audio file first, and then it's rendering the video file now. They both end up in the same place. The reason I told you to do the audio first and then you come and save it before doing a render is because everything overwrites itself. So you go to this little folder. Sorry, let me just turn down the renders music in the background. Yeah, you go to the little folder icon. You don't go in any folders, it just drops them in this first folder. So you would come in here, and the audio WAV file down here would be the audio you just recorded in the headset. So you'd come in here, save that. I'd already done it, so that's why I'm doing the render now. It doesn't matter. And once you've saved that, then you can go back in the headset and render the video part. And again, once the video's finished rendering, you would come back here and it would be this video H264 at the bottom. You can see the size. This is actually rendering at the moment and the size of it is small, so you can actually view this in live time to see like kind of where you are, judging by the size of it, because generally renders with the settings I have are around about 800 megabytes to maybe 1 gig if it's a big map or there's like loads of stuff going on. But yeah, usually I just leave it and I look at my headset with the lenses facing me, because it's a black screen, and because it's just sat on the desk, I'll see when the render's finished because it will light up because you'll be back on the menu again. But yeah, so that's where you come to download those files, but you always have to do the audio and save it, then the video and save it, and you can't render more than one at a time because everything just overwrites itself. If you didn't save the audio and you rendered the video, it would mess up the audio file. And I think if you did the audio and you had the video and not saved it, it would mess up that. So you always have to do one, save it, do the other, save it, and you can't do more than one render at a time. I'm going to pause the video here, I think, and wait till the render's finished, and then I'll show you the next steps I do to get a working video file. So we'll come back in a second. Okay, so the render's finished, and now we're just going to go back into that folder icon, scroll down, and you can see video H264 here, 309. It's a smaller file size because it was only a 2-minute map. Then we will save that. And once that's saved, at the moment you can't do anything with that file. It's like a raw file or something, I don't know. It just doesn't work in like editing program. You can't upload it to YouTube directly, I don't think. So I found a while ago this program called Shutter Encoder. Well, me and someone else who was also working with the early access on the renders, we were trying to find a method that made it easy to convert the file so we could use it in editing software rather than using the FFmpeg method that people were using on Hemwell8's Discord. I think this does use FFmpeg in the background, but it's just a GUI version and it's just a lot easier to do than messing about with code and stuff. Anyway, so once you've downloaded Shutter Encoder, it'll look like this. I've had people in the past tell me there's some sort of warning message when they're trying to download Shutter Encoder, but I think it's just a false positive, honestly. I don't think it's anything to worry about. Like on Reddit, on like the editing Reddits and stuff, like a lot of people use this instead of Handbrake now, so I think it's pretty trustworthy and I trust it. So anyway, we'll browse for the file and I'll go to my downloads and this is where the file is that we've just saved from over from SideQuest. So it'll look like, it'll just say video H264 and you can also see the audio file there. So we'll select the video file, it loads it into Shutter Encoder. Now again, as I said before, I'm trying to get the best quality for my videos possible, but that means bigger file sizes. So if you're struggling with file sizes, you don't have much space, then you could always use a different codec here, but I use Apple ProRes. It's an editing codec, and I use this specifically because I'm editing the files a bit afterwards. If you just wanted to convert this and then mix it together with the audio and keep a smaller file size, you could use MP4 or something like that. But yeah, I'm just going to show you my process. So where is Apple ProRes? Originally, if you've seen any of my older videos, I was doing this at 4444, but I found out the YouTube caps out at 422, so it's just use 422. It creates a smaller file size. You ain't gonna notice the quality difference. So 422, and then what I do is, because I rendered it at 1440p, I use Shutter Encoder to scale the file up to 4K. That is just because YouTube, even though it's not a 4K file, it still looks better at 4K on YouTube than using the base file. The reason I don't render in 4K is because, one, it takes a ridiculous amount of time to do a render. Like, it can be like an hour long sometimes, you know, and it's more prone to crashing, I've found, when you're rendering at 4K with a high bit rate and everything else. It's just can be a bit too much for the Quest 2 to handle, which isn't surprising. I mean, it's doing it all on the headset, so I found this a much easier method because it's faster and it's just easy for the Quest 2 to render the 1440. So yeah, scale it if you want, or just keep it at source. And that's it. So Apple ProRes 422, scale it if you want, ignore everything else, and then you just click Start Function. And that will start progress. I'll just pause this here because this takes a few minutes to process through, so we'll come back in a second. Okay, so now that's finished, you'll want to open up your editing software. I use Premiere, but you can use HitFilm Express. It's a free editing software you can download. They're very similar, but yeah. So I'll open up Premiere. I'm just doing this to add the audio with the video file. I do a little bit of extra editing in there, but I won't show you that. It's not really relevant. So once you've got your editing software open, you need to import the files. So shutter encoder, when you're using it, you can set the location. I've just got an encodes folder where I place it, and there's the Apple ProRes file that it spat out. So that was 10 gigabytes just for a 2-minute long map. So the files are pretty big. And then I'll also import the audio file that we saved off the headset at the start. And I also import my outro just because that's what I put. So you'll drag the video file over to here, and then the audio track underneath. And then what I do is turn off snap to timeline, drag this right down, and then I'll play it. And on a normal map, I will listen for the first hit of the Saber hitting the first block. On this map, the hit sounds were really weird because it's a noodle map, so I turned them down, but luckily the first sort of note of the song was where the block is, so I'm going to try and line that up. Because one thing that happens with renders and the audio file, they can a lot of the time have a few second delay, so that's why you have to kind of line it up manually. Let me just start that again. Sorry, I need to listen. So it was when I hit that third block was the sound. And then what I'm going to do is adjust the audio, adjust the video file. I'm going to drag it back. Where was that, the first block? But I basically just manually adjust it. Oh no, the first block was a down hit. So yeah, normally this is a little bit easier when you're doing a normal map. Just me being stupid chose a noodle map for the first one. So there's the first block. So once you know where the sound is, you can line it up to just slicing through the first block. That's generally the best for the sound timing. So that looks good to me. Next, I will right click on the audio and I will increase the gain 5.5. Renders, they seem to come out a little bit quiet, I've found, and I've found 5.5 to be the highest you can get it without distorting the audio. So yeah, I just always change them to 5.5. I will show you just the tweaks I do to give my videos a little bit more pop. If we adjust this to like because on some maps when you render it can look a bit not pixelated but kind of like, well yeah, kind of pixelated in these sort of dark areas, or if you've got kind of grey areas. It's quite hard to tell on this map. But I would find one of those areas and I would go to colour and I would just turn up the contrast a little bit. I'd usually do maybe 40, and I would do hang on, I saved the file somewhere. Oh, black -10, that was it. Let's get rid of that. Just type this in. And that just, it makes the blacks black. Because I've noticed when you're doing this method through shutter encoder, they can come out a little greyish, and it just makes it pop a bit more. So that's it basically. Then I would hang on. Then I would add my outro. And then I go to effects, video transitions, dissolves, dip to black, dip to black. For some reason as well with the audio file, you always end up with this extra bit at the end. You can just delete that off. And then the final thing you want to do is find the end of your video. And in Premiere at least, you press O for the out, and then I for the in. And that's it. So I'll just double check it. The blacks look nice. The audio's in time. Yep, that's good. So then you want to highlight this box down here. Go to File, Export, Media. And I changed the format to Apple ProRes. I was originally doing MP4 because YouTube says its upload is it recommends uploading in MP4, but I found out you can upload Apple ProRes straight to YouTube. So I thought, why bother encoding it or transcoding it in MP4 when YouTube's just gonna transcode it. So I thought I may as well just upload in Apple ProRes and let YouTube change it the first time instead. Then you go down to render at maximum depth, use maximum render quality, and export. I'll just pause the video here while this runs. Okay, so once that's finished, I will just minimize this for now, just in case. I like to go check the video file, and if I've accidentally missed something, sometimes I forget to boost the audio, then I can come back and change it without closing off everything. Although I know I have this time. So my outros folder, my encodes folder, this is the final file, and this is the one you want to upload to YouTube. So that's everything I do to upload my videos, and hopefully this was helpful to some people, so thanks.
Blood in my face, yeah. All over my face, yeah.